Welcome to the Work in Progress podcast. This is a space where we want to create conversations around things that actually matter. We hope these words encourage you to know that no matter where we are in our journeys, we're all still a work in progress.
Work in progress. Good afternoon, good morning, whatever time of day it is. I started with the time of day. I don't know why I did that, man. I was going to say good morning, but it could be any time of day.
Good, exact 12 o'clock in the middle of the day.
Good day to you, Work in Progress family.
Good day.
We are back in the studio.
That's right. We're back.
The AV Media Studios. That's cool. I've never said that before. That's cool. Yeah, I like that a little bit too much, I think. But man, I got a question for you, dude.
Come on.
You ever been stuck like Chuck in a pickup truck?
Woo!
Didn't know how to get out?
Ever been stuck? I have been stuck. Matter of fact, if my sisters ever listen to this podcast, which I don't know if they do, they'll remember this. So when I was a little guy, probably in elementary school, I remember being at the mall in Corpus Christi.
Ooh.
Shout out to my hometown, Corpus Christi, Texas, baby. I remember being at the mall. Back then, the mall was not great. It wasn't heavily trafficked. And so what does little boys in their elementary years do? They do stupid stuff. So I decided to stick my head in between the bars railing on the second floor that overlook, this first floor of the mall. And so what I did is I stuck my head through the bars, and then I couldn't get them out. And so my dad had already told me to not do that. Your boy got a big head. I still do. And if you've seen my son, he also has a big head. So you have to imagine what I look like as a little guy. Big head, stuck it in the bars. My dad knew that I was going to get stuck. Sure enough, I got stuck. And I just remember being stuck, looking down at the people on the first floor and just waving. And people were looking at me, looking up at me what the heck? And eventually the fire department came and they pried the bars open a little bit and got my head out. And so
True story?
True story, man.
Is that why you have the
true story, man? That's why my head is just shaped the way it is.
Caved in?
So I just kept trying to back out and I couldn't. I was stuck.
That's terrifying.
No, true story though. And parents, our kids, listen to your parents. We're always right. And so my dad was right. I shouldn't have stuck my head in there, but I did. And slightly embarrassing, but I don't think anybody that I know was there except for my sisters and my family, of course.
What a memory, dude.
Come on, man.
Thanks for bringing us on that ride, bro. That was cool.
There you go.
I know
Ever
you
been
a
stuck?
bit better.
There you go. Of course I have.
That's awesome, bro.
Is that what we're talking about today?
Hilarious.
Being stuck in the bars at the mall?
That is, yeah.
Perfect.
I have a story similar. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, but we're going to talk about being stuck today. That's a prime example. Being stuck spiritually for you, physically, and for anybody else listening. It's just in the situation in life you're in right now.
Come on, man. We've all been there, feeling like you're stuck in a rut.
Yeah.
Not like a literal rut, but you just feel like you're stuck. Whether you're in a season where you feel stuck of I'm stuck being single, or I'm stuck without a job, or man, I'm stuck feeling this distance from God, or we've all navigated through seasons of feeling like we're stuck.
Yeah, dude. Multiple probably. I remember vividly whenever I graduated high school, I went to the local community college in my hometown. And it was
you gonna shout out
to Weatherford College Coyotes.
There you go. Coyotes, baby. There you go.
Dude. WC. And man, I remember going to that college. I, had no friends. All my friends went to, big boy college, other universities, and they weren't home. And so I just would drive there. I met people that were, cool people, random strangers that lived in the town.
They're 60 years old.
Some of them were 60. Some of them were my age. I had never met. Went to school with them forever. And I was like, how do I not know you? But yeah, man, I remember going there, driving every day. I remember I was so just stuck, lost. I felt like I didn't know what to do. That every day after school, I would just drive to the ATM and check my bank balance every day. And I had no money. I had very little money.
26 cents.
Yeah, no, I meant $20, but every day I'd go through just to get that little receipt, and I was probably wasted a ton of paper, but I was like, I don't know what else to do, man. Random, just so random, just to try to feel
that's good,
not where I was, essentially, feel like something different. And
that's good.
Yeah, my truck was almost as big as the lane, so I would almost get stuck every time.
Same truck you're driving now, bro.
Same truck.
That's it,
man.
You just been stuck in that truck, man.
I love that truck, dude.
That's good.
Don't mess with me, bro. That truck is good.
we've all been stuck. And honestly, today, we really want to it's gonna be a super practical episode about just man, what do you do whenever you're stuck in these seasons where you're like, man, God, I've been praying it, but it sounds like the prayers are just hitting the top of the ceiling and bouncing back, and like I'm just stuck right here. And so, we're just gonna talk through like, man, what do you do when you're stuck in a rut? So I've got 3 things, and so I'm gonna name all 3 here at the top, and then we'll go back through and we'll just like talk through them.
Cool.
All right. So 3 things to do when you feel like you're stuck in a rut. Number 1, you got to ask yourself, is there something here that I need to learn? Okay, we'll come back to it. Something here that I need to learn. The second thing you need to ask yourself, is it time to grow? Is it time to grow? Yeah, there we go. And then the third thing, is it time to take action? All right, so 3 things that you can ask yourself when you're stuck in a rut. Let's talk about the first one. Is there something you need to learn? You know, when we get stuck, maybe that there's something that God is trying to show us. I'm going to use one example, and then I'm going to let you talk through what that means to you.
Hey.
I've had this conversation with several of our students / young adults in this current season that we're in, where they're like, "Oh, I'm ready to date. I'm ready to meet that girl. I'm ready to go." And I'm like, "Bro, you ain't ready because you still have things you need to learn about yourself before you're ready to go and date somebody else." Right. So there's these things where we're like, and not saying that all people in singleness, this is the reason why, but it's just a good example of like, man, there's sometimes before we get to that next season that you need to actually learn from. Like personally, like before I was ready to be a dad, I had to learn to be like a good husband and learn to like sacrifice and to learn to be humble and to learn to like, you know, all the things. And you're still learning some of that stuff when you become a dad, but I'm super grateful that it took a little while after being married to have our son, because there was things that I had to learn before I was actually semi-ready to be a dad. And so it's one of those things you got to ask yourself, is there something you need to learn?
That's good, bro. Yeah, I think that's a very important question. I like all of these questions, by the way, these topics, because, man, if you just going back to the situations I've been stuck in, if I would have asked these questions, they might have turned out a little differently. I think I learned what God wanted me to learn anyways, but I think it could have been more intentional if I would have had these prior to. So if you're listening and you're in a situation, write these down, man. This is important. But I think that reminds me of the parenthood one, man. I think the whole time when I knew, you know, Tay was pregnant, we were preparing. Even before that, I was just like, man, I got to gear up because I know this day is going to come eventually. Ooh. And it always comes at you like faster than what you think.
Of course.
And even like the 9 months of being pregnant, it's like that went by in a zip, right? And ours was a month early. Our baby was early. And so it was like, dude, even less time. And so, yeah, man, I think there was a lot that I had learned in that period of time. And some of it was accidental, right? Like you make a mistake and you're like, crap. Won't do that again. I, mentally note that one in the books. But I think that's a very important question, bro. I like that. I like that one a lot.
Yeah. I think this is a good one to start off on, because every time I feel like I'm stuck in a rut, I have to remind myself of this question: what do I need to learn? Because it's the same answer for me. I have to learn several things, but there's always one thing that I always have to learn, and it's that I am not in control.
Yeah.
Right. And so maybe that's the question you start with, of what I need to learn. And maybe it's just a reminder for you that you're not in control and that you need to let go.
That's good.
And so that's something I have to remind myself of a lot, because there's always, I'm a planner. And so like, I want to know what this is going to be and this is going to be and what step this is going to take and where am I going to be here and here and here. And so oftentimes, like, and I feel stuck, God's just like, hey, let go. Like, you're not in control anyway, so stop trying to let go. And so
that's good, man.
The first thing is like, is there something you need to learn? And if you're in this place right now and you're like, I don't need to learn anything, maybe you need to learn to let God be in control. Maybe trust him because he's bigger, better, badder than you. And so that's the first one. Second one, is it time to grow? Right. And so in our last episode, we talked a little bit about taking a step back. And actually one of our pastor elders at our church does this with me periodically, where he asked me to almost like give myself like these evaluations of like what's going good and what's something that I can work on and grow on. And I'm super appreciative of that, because oftentimes you get in these ruts and you have to take a step back to realize, is it time for me to grow? I don't know if you have anything personal there. I know you're a big self-evaluation person. And so that's like, this is one of those like perfect, hey, I need to take a step back and self-evaluate.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And this is like one of the core principles of all these self-evaluation, self-help books, right? Because you can't get to that next level, whether it's spiritually or financially or relationally, if you don't grow, right? Because like, imagine if I was still the way I acted in college and in high school and I was trying to date my wife, like we probably wouldn't be married, man. Like, just face it, I wasn't as grown as I am now. I wasn't at the level I am now. Not saying I'm like at this super high level, but growth is super vital to just life in general, right? If you're not growing, there's a saying, if you're not growing, you're dying, you know, which means just like you just got to always learn and grow from the experiences you had. And I like this saying that I heard from an online mentor of mine. He says, it kind of applies, right? It's like he says all work works, right? It's either working on you or it's working for you. And so that's the whole point of it, is like, if it's working on you, then there's some growth that needs to happen in order for you to break out of this feeling of feeling stuck, right? This, I don't know, this rut that you're in.
Yeah, I think like when you think about it, like where maybe perhaps you're stuck in a rut because you've actually outgrown the room that you're in.
Yeah.
And so maybe you have to make a change to make yourself a little bit uncomfortable. And so this is going to be like I don't even know if this reference is going to make sense, but I'm going to try it anyways. So one of my favorite Disney movies, old school, is A Bug's Life. So this is kind of dating myself a little bit. When you watch A Bug's Life, there's this character in here, like the caterpillar. He's like just a big blob, right? But you think about this idea of a caterpillar, like, right, there's a moment where they're like stuck in a rut when they're like in their little, is it a cocoon? Is that right? I don't know about my science. Okay. So they're in this cocoon and they're like stuck. You're stuck in the middle because they're actually about to grow and they're about to be from a caterpillar to a butterfly. Right. Yeah. And so you get this picture of that in this movie. That's what it reminds me of like, sometimes we get stuck in these ruts because we're actually about to experience some big kind of growth.
Yeah.
If we're willing to take a step back, self-evaluate, and then realize like, oh, maybe I feel like stuck in this rut spiritually because, man, I've been, taking the milk like a baby, and now it's time to grow up a little bit.
Yeah.
Like now it's time to maybe lead in something or to dive in deeper or, do something to where, okay, I'm getting out of this rut because I've grown up a little bit. I've matured a little bit. It's time for me to spread my wings and fly like a butterfly.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I love that idea of, is it time to grow? Because self-evaluation is huge. Like it's good to take a step back and to see like, man, is my circle of friends still healthy? Man, last episode we talked about like social media. Like maybe you feel like you're stuck in a rut because you've been comparing yourself to everything you see on social media. Maybe it's time for you to take a step back and realize how much good stuff you actually have.
That's good, bro.
So there's a ton of things that you could go through in that, but
that actually reminds me of James. I'm walking through the book of James right now, and James 1, man, like it says, testing your faith, right? Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. Essentially saying like, these are things that are going to happen. There's going to be trials. There's going to be different seasons in your life where you are going through this phases.
Yeah.
But that's supposed to happen because it's going to give you, it's going to make you perfect. It's going to make you steadfast in what God needs for you in this next phase of your life. So
for sure.
That's what that reminds me of. That's cool.
For sure.
That's
Yeah.
Cool,
I mean, we've talked a lot about like the working out analogy, but right, if you plateau and like you don't add and increase your weight, like you don't ever grow.
Yeah.
Like, right. So it's a cause to take a step back, self-evaluate, maybe get uncomfortable, which actually leads into the third one of maybe it's time to take action. Right. Maybe you being in a rut after you've asked yourself, hey, what do I need to learn here? And maybe you've now taken a step back and said, is it time to grow? Maybe that third one is now, okay, it's time to take action, right? It's time to identify my God-given purpose and now set some goals, set some things, changing careers, finding better friends, like, diving in deeper, biting off, maybe instead of hanging out in whatever book you find easy in the Bible, maybe it's time to take that jump into something that's a little bit scary. That's a little bit of a challenge or something like that. And so I think the time to take action is one that I immediately jump to. But I think this is the note is don't immediately jump to something to take action to get yourself out of the rut without first doing the first two. What do I need to learn?
Right.
And is it time to grow? So if you do that, you're going to kind of miss out a little bit if you just jump to this one. So
that's good. I think just being transparent, this is probably the one I'm the worst at, is taking action. I think I do a lot of self-evaluation. I do a lot of trying to get uncomfortable and trying to grow. But like the action part is for some reason where I'm the most resistant. And I think that's because it's the scariest one, right? Like you can do all the other two to give you a solid foundation and point you in the direction of where you need to take the action. But the action is actually where the magic happens, right? It's where you experience the uncomfort. It's where you experience the challenges. And so that's the reason why it's one of the most important ones, right?
Yeah, I think if you're taking the time to find out what you need to learn, if you're taking the time to take a step back and to grow, then you're almost doing yourself a disservice by not finishing it off.
Yeah,
like, you know,
exactly.
You get there and like, of course you're still stuck in a rut because you haven't actually changed anything. Like that's, you know, you look back on it and it's kind of like, well, like joke, right? You laugh, but that's sometimes the hardest piece. I think sometimes we get stuck in these rhythms and these routines, whether it's like work or habits or things of like limiting my spiritual growth. Like we get stuck in these things because change is hard and it's uncomfortable. Like let's just say that like making a change is uncomfortable. And so oftentimes like we just like to be comfortable. Like we'll complain about, I'm stuck in a rut and I'm not growing and I'm not doing, and they're like, well, what did you change? Well, nothing.
Right.
And it's like, okay, that's like, you know, and it's hard. And so I think when we look at this from like a spiritual lens, I actually got this from a Life Church message I stumbled upon, and Pastor Groeschel was talking about the primary reason that we get stuck is because we try to meet a need without God's grace. Like that's why we get stuck, because we try to do things in our own power. And so like these three things are great.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to do them on your own,
good luck.
Yeah, you're going to stay stuck in the rut, right? And so he talks about 2 Corinthians 12:9. It's a pretty famous verse, like where my grace is sufficient for you. Like my power is perfected in your weakness.
Yeah.
Right. And it's this idea that like, right, you get stuck in these ruts. And if you just try to like pull yourself up by the bootstraps and I've got this, you don't. Like you're going to stay stuck again, whether that's in just this spiritual apathy, whether that's stuck in addiction, whether that's, you know, just stuck, you're going to stay there.
Yeah.
If you keep trying to do it by yourself, you know? And so, maybe we can link that sermon into this, the show notes if I can find it again. I just stumbled on it while I was doing this. I didn't actually save it. So, but I think it's really good. It's like, it's really good to remind yourself that if I try to change without God's grace, I'm going to fail over and over and over again. And then I get frustrated and then you just stay
Fall
stuck.
back.
Yeah. I mean, you just stay there. So
that's good, man. Those are really great tips actually. And like Daniel said, I encourage you to like write these down, actually write them down and like figure it out, because like you said, nothing changes if nothing changes. Right. So you have to be the catalyst to ignite this change, to start it. And it starts with that list. That's a really good place to start. And so do it.
You know what I'm going to say is like I did in the last episode, community matters.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and so this is like, man, it's great to write these things down. But it's even better if you write these things down and then you get with an accountability partner of like, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to walk through this. Can you do this with me? Can you walk through this with me?
Yeah.
And also realize like, hey, like change takes time.
Yep.
Like nobody's expecting you to just like flip the switch and be from one end to the other overnight.
Yeah.
But like you said, nothing changes if you don't change. And so also in the same breath, like you can't expect change to happen if you're not willing to change. You know, can't expect to get out of the rut if you never actually get out of the rut.
Yeah.
My head would have stayed in the bars unless somebody came to pry them open and get my head out, right? And so, you know what I'm saying?
I thought you were talking about like the saloon, like the I was like, dude.
Nah, not there. This isn't the Old West. People, we are in Texas, but there's no saloons.
That's
out
hilarious,
here.
bro.
There's
that's hilarious.
no, that ain't.
No, that's good, dude. And actually, that reminds me. That's a really good point. There's a community aspect, dude. That's like the pillar of like what we talk about, because it's so vital to living like a joyful life, and having the disciplines that you need to get out of these ruts and stuff. And like that actually got me out of a huge rut in my life, was the community aspect, like Awaken Church, like meeting with people for coffee, learning how to read the Bible, learning how to walk with somebody and confessing my sins and telling them like my struggles and my strengths. That was a huge thing that got me out of a big rut in my life, man. So
So I think to summarize and like to sum this up, I think I would leave you with three things: change your perspective, focus on what you can control, and then all of this is wrapped up by you have to give it to God. Like you can't change, you can't get out of the rut yourself. Change your perspective, Focus on what you can control, but ultimately you have to give it to God
Yeah.
and let His grace change you.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's the hope, like, right? And like you said, community is important because it's really hard to do this alone. And so we say this probably every episode. If you're not in community, good, Christian, strong community as a believer, you got to get in community. Like
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
where life change really begins to like stay and stick and actually move forward from just a one-time moment to like, oh, like things are actually changing. People are seeing a change in my life. So do it. That's the encouragement.
Yeah, super cool. And also, whenever you're looking up churches or whatever, and you're listening to this on YouTube or whatever the situation is, go ahead and like and subscribe. And
Come on, we gotta get that in there, bro. It's good. Nice.
go ahead and like and subscribe. That helps us just reach more people and help more people, whoever needs this message.
Yeah.
But that's all we got. That was good.
Yeah.
Those are really helpful tips.
Don't stay stuck. That's the encouragement. Don't stay stuck. Easier said than done, but don't stay stuck. We've both been there in different seasons of our life. I'm sure we'll fall back into these ruts some other time. We have to get out of it again, but don't stay there. Like you are divinely created to live life to the fullest with abundance, and that doesn't happen if you just stay stuck in your rut. So,
Amen.
so get out of there. Go for it.
Preach.
Come on.
Preach.
Come on.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.
Later.